Birdstone won that race, and I'm told that Mary Lou Whitney, the owner of Birdstone, spoke to you after the race, and it said that she apologized. Is that true?
Well, she didn't actually speak to me. She apologized on national television.
Okay. What did she say?
She just said that she was sorry that her horse beat Smarty Jones, which, I mean, I don't know how it's just because she loves the business so much. Mm-hmm. She was excited about Smarty Jones, and I mean, I know she loved winning the Belmont. I think she would have been just as happy if she'd have been second and Smarty Jones would have won the Belmont. Yeah. So, it's
that's interesting.
She's been a big supporter of the racing industry for as long as I've been around, and I know she knows how much it would have meant if he would have won. Yeah. But that's the business, and you go out there to win, and that's why she put him in there, and that's what he and he ran a great race. He did.
He did run a great race. Smarty's been retired to Three Chimneys Farm in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Why did he have to retire?
Well, after the Belmont, we gave him some time off, and he started. When we did start him back in training, he wasn't the same. Mm-hmm. And we thought it was his feet. He did have some bruising in his feet, and to make a long story short, we did some work there, and he wasn't getting any better. We sent him to a clinic for what they called nuclear scans, and in the scintigraphy, it showed that he had a lot of heat in all four of his ankles. And X-rays showed that he had some what they call microfractures. And the horses get that. It's an immature thing. And a lot of times they'll with 3-4 months off, they'll come back and they'll do fine. With his case, he was pretty sore, which they don't get that bad. On a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the worst, he was about a 4. Mm-hmm. So we thought it was in his best interest to retire him.
Does that sadden you at all?
It did, because I think that people really never got to see how good he really was. Mm-hmm. I really think that he, as good as he was, I think he had better races in front of him. I think he had a lot of maturing to do. Yeah. But since Mr. and Mrs. Chapman and I talked about maybe bringing him back next year, now that he's had plenty of time off, and if things were good and he was healed, that we'd bring him back. And we actually sent him to Rudin Riddle Clinic in Lexington, and Dr. Bramwich, who's world-renowned surgeon, examined him, and he still wasn't good. So he said that he really felt that it was in his best interest to retire. And because we just didn't want to jeopardize him getting hurt.
Okay. You have a new horse now, Rockport Harbor, owned by Rick Porter. And of course there's been tremendous amounts of publicity around this horse, and the sense that he is perhaps going to be the next champion. Obviously a lot of this comes on the heels of Smarty Jones. How do you feel about all the hoopla around Rockport Harbor? Does it put a lot of pressure on you and on the horse that you find a little bit upsetting?
I don't find it upsetting. It certainly does put a lot more pressure. Last year with Smarty Jones, we were into March before people started jumping on the bandwagon and realizing that he was really that good. And because of Smarty Jones, now a lot of people, have jumped on Rockport Harbor's bandwagon early on, and he's a very good horse. Yeah. And, he could be as good as Smarty. He's shown signs of that. Mm-hmm. But I liked it a whole lot better when nobody else knew that but me.
Yeah, I can imagine. If you were to compare the two horses, and just in terms of the differences, the strengths and weaknesses and whatever, how could you summarize as quickly for us?
Smarty Jones was a high-energy horse. From day one, he was fast, and everything he did, he wanted to do as fast as he could. Yeah. He would gobble up his food. I mean, just everything, almost like an ADD kid, just wanting to go. Yeah. And Rockport Harbor is just the opposite. He was like a baby Huey. He was just big. He's a lot bigger than Smarty. Yeah. Very immature, and was going out there and beating good horses just on raw talent. Mm. And if he makes that transition to a 3-year-old and matures like most of them do, he could certainly be a force to reckon with.
So a lot falls on the trainer here. obviously,
Yes.
to make that transition.
Yeah. Well, they have to do. I mean, they have to make it on their own. You know, and it's kind of like if you could picture Shaquille O'Neal in the 7th grade, and then look at him as a senior in high school. Well, that's how big a jump horses make from their 2-year-old to 3-year-old year. I mean, they mature a whole lot. Yeah. And you know, if he does some of that on his own, I can handle the rest of it. And I mean, he's very talented. He's a very talented horse.
Okay, well, we look forward to watching that.
Well, thank you.
Racing's become a very expensive business, and I've read that recently a yearling sold for $8 million. And that really changes things, it would seem to me, when you have that level of money involved. What do you think this means for the future of racing?
Well, racing's always been an expensive business. I mean, we have a saying around the racetrack that it's not a game that's played by men in short pants, because there's a lot to be lost. Yeah. And Smarty's mother, sold in November, and she sold for $5 million. She was sold 2 years ago for $175,000. So, you know, the horses have an opportunity to improve their value by their offspring or by what they do. The $8 million horse had a very good pedigree. So, like Smarty, with the breeding business, he had a lot of residual value. So as high as it sounds, it really wasn't that risky, because he's probably worth close to that as a sire. So, you know, it's you know, people, when you're on the outside looking in, you see those big numbers, and you think, man, how could they pay that kind of number for a horse? But if that horse never runs a day in his life, and he's worth $6 to $8 million as a sire, it's not a big risk for people in this business.
So what is Smarty worth as a sire?
Well, he was syndicated for $39 million.
And what does that mean, syndicated?
That means they put a syndication together and bought him for $39 million as a sire. That's for breeding purposes only. And that's a risk, because 3 years from now, he's either going to be noted as a very good sire, or a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. But it's kind of like the stock market. You know, you get in, you hope you get in somewhat low, and hope it goes up.
Now, when you say he's syndicated, so it's a group of owners that, and how many would that be?
60 owners.
Okay. 60
owners. So, I mean, roughly it would, you know, you're looking at somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 a share.
Okay. Wow. It is an expensive business.
Oh, yeah.
So you must meet interesting people in the course of your journeys.
Absolutely. And it's funny, because once you get to really know people in the business, for myself anyway, it's been more so this last year. It's been easier for me, because you realize that the ambassador from England, the sheiks from Dubai, you know, and the guys that go to the sale and spend millions, they're just regular people. Yeah. They got a lot of money, but they're no different than us.
They're no different, except they have more money.
Yeah, and they like to sit down and talk and chit-chat about the business, and so that's more this year than ever. I got to really
in a sense, you
that.
got catapulted to another level of publicity and high profileness through Smarty Jones, I guess, that you'll have for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those people that I knew before that that treated me just like they do now. There's other people that, you know, didn't really want to, they didn't have time now. So, I mean, that's in any business, or I guess that's part of everyday life. But it's been a great experience for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. So in a few weeks, you'll be off to Arkansas, and you're going to start the new round of races with Rockport Harbor. Is he the only horse that you have at the moment? I mean, you only had Smarty Jones that you were training last year.
No, actually, I had last year I had 45 horses.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
that's
misunderstood.
All year, and this year I got about 35.
Okay.
I've actually I sent a few horses out for the winter, and you know, because it's tough through the winter time.
And how do you, when you have that many horses, you have different goals for these different horses?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, not all of them do you expect to be great champions?
No, and they're different ages, different categories, and different owners. And you just try to, each one of them, you try to get the best out of them for whatever category they're in and show a profit for the owner.
Okay. Well, in terms of this new round that you're going to be, this cycle that you're going forward with Rockport Harbor, tell us how you feel about starting this. I mean, what are the ups and downs that you foresee in the next year with this horse?
There's a lot of upside.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think he's got a lot of maturing to do. I really think at this level, at this stage of the game, he has a lot more room for improvement than Smarty did. He's not as fast as Smarty was, but he has a lot more room for improvement, so he could be faster. I don't know that. He does things at a much calmer level, and that makes it easier for me. Yeah. So I'm real excited about the opportunities. The downside is the injury that he had. We've missed some time with him. His first race is scheduled to be February 19th, which I don't know if he'll make. And if he doesn't make that, then he'll be going into the Kentucky Derby with only 2 races under his belt for this year.
And is that bad just from an experience point
Well,
of
there's
view?
never been a horse to win the
Really?
Kentucky Derby in the last 25 years with only 2 races under their belt. Now, that doesn't say it can't be done. Right. And if that's the way it's going to be done, then we'll do the best we can, and hopefully we can change that. But I'm not going to push him to make the race on February 19th, and if he doesn't, then we'll be running in March.
Okay. So, in other words, if he just runs with 2, he'll have had less experience than you would ideally want him to have.
Right. But he had a lot of experience last year. Yeah. He ran a mile. His last race was a 1 1/8, which it was the only 1 1/8 race for 2-year-olds that whole year. So he's actually, the way I look at it, he has a little bit of an advantage on them that way. So, if we miss the first race, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
Okay. Well, we look forward to following his progress. I mean, he's really, the eyes of the nation will be on him.
Well, thank you.
So.
He's a very good horse.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John Servis, for talking to us today.
Thank you, Paul.
And thank you for joining us at the Drexel interview.